Terry Gilliam was described by New York Times film critic Janet Maslin as, quote, the resident madman of the movies. His extraordinary and fantastical images, from his work with Monty Python's Flying Circus to his films like Time Bandits and Brazil, represent some of the most unforgettable scenes in modern film. Gilliam's first film since his multi-Oscar-nominated Fisher King is 12 Monkeys. It stars Bruce Willis as a prisoner from the year 2035, sent to 1996 to discover the source of a deadly plague that has forced humanity underground. I'm pleased to have Terry Gilliam here to talk about this business and this art and this craft of making movies. Welcome. It's great to have you here. Tell me about this film first, and then I want to look back at a career and some other things. And I apologize to the audience because I've got little brass buttons. This is not the jacket I meant, and so they'll be bumping around.
Reality,
what the hell? Yeah. Tell me about 12 Monkeys. Yeah, exactly. Tell me about 12 Monkeys and this idea, and how does one sort of look at it?
It's funny because you actually described about a man who comes back from the future to do something. The film actually is much more ambivalent than that, because for most of the film you don't know whether he's a man who's come back from the future or just another wacko apocalypse nut.
Which makes it interesting on
That's right, because that's part of what it's about. It's very much about perception of reality is what the film is really about. And it also, because of this guy coming back from a future which is fairly repressive and restricted, we don't like it, but it's kind of a known quantity. When he enters our world, it's like a Martian coming into our world, and the rules that he understands don't apply. And it's a way of looking at where we are now, I think, is what it is. And that's what intrigues me about it. The fact that there's a great tale being woven through this thing is something else, but it's just a chance to sort of make us think, look at what the world is, what it isn't, what we think it is, what it isn't, what kind of information we're getting, because we seem to be inundated with information. And it's hard to know what the real stuff is, which the stuff is that counts. And I think it's the hardest thing in modern society, is to know what to listen to and what not to.
And this character, I mean, in a sense, you want the audience in the theater not to really know how this character is.
No, I don't think it's clear through most of the film which it is. I'm not going to tell which, because what you've set up may be a total lie. This is what's great about television. We can do this. We can lie to millions of people.
No.
If we do it with a straight face, they'll believe. Really, Charlie.
All right. Tell me this. Do you see, before I show a clip of 12 Monkeys, do you see what you do as a filmmaker any different, you think, than most other directors? Look at whatever the top 15 grossing films are this evening, and is your sort of sense of what I'm trying to do dramatically different, so that a Janet Maslin will say, you know, you're the resident madman of moviedom?
I think I work hard at trying to at least offer up a different perception of the world. That's one of the reasons I stay in England. I live 6,000 miles away from Hollywood, because anybody working in the film industry is surrounded by so many people who seem to accept a certain worldview at any one moment, at any week, and films get made by people agreeing with that. And I want to stay away from that. I want to offer up other views of what the world might be like. And I've really been lucky getting my films. They fall through the cracks at the right time, it seems to me. Somehow the system isn't as good as it ought to be. So the system should be excluding me in my work, but no, we somehow managed to get through there.
Is there a link between Monty Python and 12 Monkeys?
Only to the extent that Monty Python got away with murder, and so is 12 Monkeys.
All right, take a look at this. Let's set this up. He has a history. This is year 2035, and Bruce Willis is given an ultimatum to return to Earth in the past. Here it is. Talking about that clip. Bruce Willis, tell me about him as an actor, because what appeals to me about him is that he'll do Die Hard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and make, you know, gazillion dollars, married to a very attractive lady, and then at the same time takes risk and goes and does films where he doesn't have a necessarily, you know, starring role, has an important role, whether it's Pulp Fiction or something else, and gets approving judgments by critics.
Bruce knows he's a success. He knows he's got an audience, and I think he really is desperate to show the world that he's a good actor as well. He wants that kind of respect, I think, is the word, and he is really a good actor. I think a lot of people, I mean, when people see this film, I mean, he puts himself through everything. There's no fear in what he's doing. I mean, he will look as ugly, he will look as disturbed as possible. What was interesting for him in this one was to be a character that had no net, no safety net as far as clever one-liners or the smirk, any of those things. I said, you're naked in this one. And normally his characters tend to be fairly, they're external. They go out. This one had to be totally internalized, and it'd be lost. He actually has to find, in two scenes, which are my favorite scenes almost, he becomes a child almost. That kind of innocence, that total
vulnerability, and it's curiosity.
It's wonderful, and and you really care. Now when we were working, I explained if we were going to do this film when we first met. I said, you can't bring the entourage, you can't do any of that stuff.
Right.
You've got to be
naked.
You're naked right now, and he's in I would swear he's probably in 90% of the shots in this film. He's on nonstop, and he intrigues me. I mean, he's smart, and I think he knows that. He wants to go on working, and he wants to provide as many possibilities for himself.
No other choice in your mind when you decided to direct this that he was your...
No, not actually true, because I didn't want to work with a big star, to be honest.
So you didn't want him even?
I didn't want big stars, period. I wanted to keep the film, with smaller, less well-known actors, less expensive ones, because I wanted to maintain control. And I thought, because it's and I thought, from the studio's point of view, because it's a very demanding kind of script, it's a very intelligent thing, that they were going to get nervous, so that the cheaper I could make it, the less nervous they would be, basically, is my theory.
That's true.
Yeah, and it works that way. But the studio wanted a name, because they thought that's how you can sell the film. Yeah. Opening weekend seems to be everything. And they threw a lot of names at me, and I said, I'm off. Goodbye. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, because they were all totally inappropriate people.
You have, you're fearless about that. I mean, there's no project you want so much to do that if it, in fact, cuts into your control, you'll just walk.
Yeah.
You don't need to do this. You don't need the money. You don't need the opportunity. You don't need nothing.
I made a choice my junior year of college.
Yeah.
Here he goes, the old man speaking here.
Yes.
Let me tell you, son.
Let me tell you how I got mine.
And I was working in the Chevrolet assembly plant on the assembly line on the night shift, trying to work my way through college. And I said, this is a waste of my life. I'm not going to do it. And I quit and said, I will never work for money in my life, and I will never do anything I don't have total control over. And I stuck with it. And it took a long time to get where I am.
What was the movie where you fought for control? Was that Brazil?
Brazil. Well, I actually had control. What happened was that 20th Century Fox had it for the world, and Universal had it for North America. Now, Fox released it in the world, and it was, very highly praised, blah, 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 blah. Universal got very frightened by it. Because their opinion of the American public was rather low at those points, and that you've got to have a happy ending. You've got to, the idea of a satisfying ending doesn't interest them. Happy ending. And so I got in a big fight with them and said, if you want a different film, then let's make a different film in the future. Yeah. But we agreed to make this film. All the actors got together. You read the script, we all agreed, and now you want to tell a different story? I don't think so. And it ended up in a big public battle.
Yeah. Are you a little bit too young to be having a retrospective?
Listen, I'm now 55. What do you think?
Well, it's a little young.
Yeah.
But I mean, how
it's
do
like
you feel?
A kiss of death, isn't it? This is like,
yes, that's right. That's right. It's like the thing they do out in Hollywood.
The Lifetime Achievement Award.
It's over. They're about to send you out to pasture.
I don't know. Somebody wants to show. I'm very sanguine about all these things. If somebody wants to show my films, I don't care.
Sure, put them in perspective for all your kids and everything. I mean, here. Let me talk about actors and actresses again. Uma Thurman.
Yep.
Well, tell me about her. I mean, it seems to be on a rocket ship to ultimate stardom.
It was very strange, because I picked up the phone and called her yesterday. I haven't talked to her for some time. And she says it's 10 years since we first met Terry. She was 16 years old when I met her at the Chateau Marmont. And when we did Munchausen, she was 17 and a half. And Uma is like one of these extraordinary creatures that are made by the gods and planted on Earth, because
the gods gave her everything she needed to be huge.
She's incredibly intelligent, almost too intelligent.
Yeah. Father's a professor at Columbia.
That's right. He was the first non-Tibetan Buddhist priest.
Right.
Her stepfather is Timothy Leary, and it's or godfather, whichever one. But so she's incredibly beautiful. But what's interesting about her is that, and I think what makes her more attractive is, from one angle, she's the most beautiful thing on the planet. She turns and it disappears. Yeah. And then she turns back and it's back again. And so you're constantly drawn forward and away from her. And she's just, I mean, when we made Munchausen, she was 17 and a half, and she plays Venus, and she rises up from her shell. The shell opens, and there she is naked. And on this very day, I was having her do the first nude scene she'd ever done in her life.
At 16.
17 by
17.
then. Still not legal. Her mother was on the telephone trying to talk her into going back to high school and get a diploma. And I said, too late, Uma. It's over. You're a fallen woman. I got your clothes off. But she was quite extraordinary. And she continues to just constantly go on.
You
and
liked
on.
her in Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, she was good.
Yeah.
I really liked her best in Henry and June. She was astonishing in that, but nobody saw the film.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah. Fred Ward and who else was it?
Annis, what's her name?
And Annis Nin was about.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I can't remember her name, the French actress. The one that played Bruce Willis's girlfriend in Pulp Fiction.
I can't either.
Yeah.
Somebody will tell me. Robin Williams.
Mm.
I mean...
Again, another one that was sent down by the gods.
Yeah.
There's a mind that there's no other mind on the planet like that. It's the most extraordinary thing to be with Robin. I mean, Robin is also the sweetest man on the planet. But this mind, it's like it's got all these antennae that are picking up every bit of knowledge in the universe.
He can connect it better than anybody.
And it goes like, whoop, in there. And then he juxtaposes it with things you would never imagine and weaves these magical moments. I'm always in awe of Robin. But I think, there are those of us, maybe all of us are just mutants.
Yeah.
And people pay good money to see us freaks do what we do. And there's nothing, we can't take credit for it, possibly.
You don't know what you'd do if you couldn't direct films.
No, I mean, I was saying
maybe
that
be a carpenter.
My dad was a carpenter, and I thought I was going to be one once, but no, I think, and going back to cartooning, I actually really want to get old so I can be an oil painter. I want to learn how to oil paint.
Have you done any of it?
No.
Have you no lessons?
But I know I'm going to be a good oil painter. It was like when I started animation. I'd never done it before, but the minute I did it, I picked it up. I could do it.
Because you have what about you that makes you think that? A sense of color, a sense of
composition. I just like... Paintings have been the things that in a way have informed me about everything. I mean, when I make films, they're not about other movies. They tend to be, if I use sources, it's paintings, it's Bruegel, it's Bosch, it's Goya. Those are the things that really inspire me, not films. And so I keep thinking, well, really I ought to pay back some of this by becoming a painter and carrying on a tradition.
Have you reached the point where those people who come to you, that because it's you, because you are not cut out of the same fabric in terms of the way your mind seems to work in the films that you do, that it's a magnet for actors who might not otherwise be attracted to the script, but because it's a kind of experience that's different, they want to do it?
That's probably true. The irony of all of this was that all the films I made early on, I didn't want actors in it. I always wanted to be the film to be the star. And now I find I keep swatting the actors away. Big names keep coming. I don't know. It's an odd one. Everything becomes ironic ultimately because it all goes backwards. I think what happens because of the kind of films I make, most of the people in Hollywood don't knock on my door, which is great. The people that knock on the door are people who really are smart and are good.
Right.
And so you cut out all the crap, basically. And it's useful to have a bad reputation.
One-Eyed Jacks is a favorite film of yours, the first directorial debut by
First and only.
Only, that's right. What is it about that that's so...
I had to choose a film for this retrospective that comes this weekend. Right. And rather than choosing Citizen Kane and
There's
all
no
those,
meaning in this.
Let's be perverse. But the truth is, when I first was in New York in '63, I was in 42nd Street in the winter, and I sat in there. It was a double bill, and I watched One-Eyed Jacks 3 times because it hit a certain note. And
Carl Malden is in it?
Carl Malden, Katie Girardo, Ben Johnson.
Wow.
Stanley Kubrick was supposed to direct the film, had a falling out with Brando, and Brando directed the film. And it's the only time he's done it, and I actually think it's a great film.
Have you ever wanted to do Shakespeare?
I was offered Midsummer Night's Dream by Harvey Weinstein of
Miramax.
yeah.
That sounds like Harvey Weinstein.
He said, I got $14 million. Midsummer Night's Dream, you can do Total Control. And I said, this is crazy. And I drove home, and on the way home, I worked out how to do it. And then by the time I got home, I decided, I don't want to work with Harvey.
Now listen to this. This is what you said. Each film is an attempt to create a world that makes a kind of sense. Because the real one, the one we live in, doesn't make much sense to me. It's the closest you get to playing God and getting paid for it.
What a wise person I am.
that does read well, doesn't it?
It does, and you read it beautifully, I thought.
All right, let me take a look at another clip. This is Changing the Past. This is Bruce and Madeline Stowe, who also is in this film, discuss whether he, how relevant is this clip, whether he is crazy or not.
Join us later, folks.
Join us later. Here it is. I should mention here, because it's somebody that I really met the other night. I want to talk to sometime, Brad Pitt.
Yeah. He's wonderful.
He's a movie star.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, it's just one of those things, again, I don't know. He's got it. It's just, it's all there. And the strange thing is that people want me to sort of tell extraordinary tales about how interesting he is. He's just the straightest, most decent, earnest guy I've met for a long time. And it's so hard for people to understand that he can be the center of world's attention and every woman in the world after him, and yet he's so solid. I think he's so Middle Western.
That's okay. Middle Western can be good.
That scene right there is my favorite scene. That was a moment in the film when Bruce became... Oh, my...
That's all right. Your mic.
My mic! Ah!
Right. That's actually your battery back, I think.
When Bruce reached a level of innocence and vulnerability that just made us all cry, and it's... I love moments of that, moments like that with actors, and it happens on the set, and it's such a rare thing. Whether it communicates in the finished film, one never knows, but on the set, things happen, and you can see a whole group of hardened technicians just suddenly being entranced. They're just drawn into this moment of an actor, and that happened there.
I know exactly what you mean. Even doing this kind of thing, if you're doing it on location, people gather around because somehow what the person is saying is almost, it's like has a magnet to it, and people almost leaning in.
I wish people could remember that. I think that's stories around the campfire used to be like that, when the elders would gather. I'm sure that was far more magical than what we do in movies, just a voice of an old man telling a story, a legend or whatever. And
it's the theater of the imagination, too.
That's right.
Thank you very much, Terry. Pleasure to meet you. We'll be right back. Stay with us.